All right, hello class, and welcome to our discussion of things to do for week 3. That is the week August 27th through September 2nd. We are on the Monday of that week, which I believe is the 28th at the moment, and these videos will probably go up shortly after midnight. This is for ENGL C1010/C1011 section 002/007. Y'all are doing the same stuff in both classes. This covers both of you. So if you're in one of those sections of mine, here's all the stuff I want you to do for week 3. Some of this is a little different than the syllabus too. So first, I want you to watch the paragraph video from textbook 5.3. Let me show you where that is on Blackboard real quick. Pull this up over here. So if we go into our Blackboard, we can see a couple things. One, let me close that, I guess. And then we can go into the 002 shell. Yep, new announcement, sure, whatever. Where under readings, there it is, we've got 10 ways to think about writing, but now we also have composing ourselves in our world, section 5.3. And so if we click on that, scroll down a little bit, writing a perfect paragraph. I want you to watch this video. We're going to be talking about paragraphs this week in a subsequent video on this playlist about paragraphs. I'm going to be pulling this up and referencing it. We're not going to just watch the whole thing in that video. But my expectation is when you watch my video on paragraphs, if you have not yet watched this, it'll make a little less sense. You should watch this first. So that's the first thing I want you to do. Where are we at? There we go. Then read 10 Ways to Think About Writings, sections 4 and 5. This is different than the syllabus. The syllabus says 5 and 6. I went back and looked at those just to make sure I was going to be ready to talk about them in videos, and section 6 really lends itself to Unit 2 a lot better and doesn't make a lot of sense to talk about in Unit 1. So we're pushing that back, and we're going to bring section 4 forward, where it makes more sense to talk about that now when we're also talking about like audience and things this week. So instead of what the syllabus currently says, 5 and 6, I want you to read sections 4 and 5. And then the videos later in this playlist will talk about sections 4 and 5 instead of 5 and 6. So once you've done all this, watch the rest of this week's playlist. We have discussion 3 up on Blackboard. I'll show you where that is in a second. We have journal number 3 up on Blackboard. I'll show you where that is in a second. Also a note on like readings. It could sometimes be the case, and I know I've had a couple students talk to me about this already, not just this semester, but this happens a couple times a semester, and has every year since I started doing this, is some people feel like, okay, I did the reading, but I didn't really understand it. Well, that's also fine and normal. I think E. Shelley Reid is more digestible than a lot of the stuff that you end up reading in college. Certainly her earlier sections are even better than her later ones, like 6 and 7 when we get to those. It's not the expectation I have that when you do the reading, you're going to completely grasp everything I want you to grasp in it. Sometimes academic readings are hard. Sometimes they require going through a reading multiple times. And it's perfectly normal, and it's okay. And it's actually usually the case that the first time you read an academic reading of some time, you're not going to get everything in it. But that's what the in-class discussion's for. That's what these videos are going to be for. So for those of you who maybe feel that as you're going through these readings, that maybe there's a little lack of confidence there, it's perfectly fine to do an academic reading and not take away everything from it that is possible. You'll take away more from it if you're practicing proper annotation, as we saw in section 8. But you'll be fine. So do the readings, even if you don't get everything out of them, then come into the playlist to hear my discussion of it, to see what it is that I want you to take from it. I ask that you not use my videos as a replacement for doing the reading, but do the reading first and then come to the discussion to see if there's points that are going to get cleared up, or to give you a better understanding, or whatever the case is. My videos do not replace you actually doing the reading. Okay, so let me show you where discussion. Is it this one? Yes. So discussion number 3, again, under discussions here. I want you to do. This is going to be a very video heavy week. I want you to watch this TED Talk and then reply to it in whatever thoughts that you've got in 250 words. I have some questions here to prompt your thinking if you can't think of anything yourself, but you are more than happy to, as long as you are responding to the ideas in the video, to say whatever you like. It's a video fundamentally about audience and the concept of the kinds of stories we have with other people, and sort of also the assumptions that audiences might have about you. And so this is really useful in particular for your Unit 1 paper, because it can possibly get you thinking about, all right, I'm going to tell a story, if I'm talking about myself, I'm going to tell a story about myself as a Crohn's disease patient. Well, what might be that single story that people who don't have Crohn's disease have about Crohn's disease patients? Or, what is that single story that people who don't play Dungeons and Dragons have about Dungeons and Dragons players, of which, that might be something I might also write a paper about. And so how might I address those things in my writing? So if I'm talking about myself as a D&D player, a lot of people who don't play that kind of stuff, especially back in the day, I'm coming out of like the 80s and 90s when being a nerd was far less mainstream and much more derided, especially in grade school. How do I address that single story that people might have of that? Like, your audience is going to come to you with a bunch of preconceptions, basically, and you're going to have to address those in some way, possibly, in order for them to get to see what that experience is really like. So that's the discussion. Go ahead and do that, and then if we pop back out into a lab shell here real quick, we've got our weekly journal. And for this, we're doing some more detail practice. So if I crack this open, let's go over the instructions for this real quick. I want you to describe a person to me, any person you like. I don't care who it is. They can be real, they can be fictional, they can be someone you personally know, although if you are going to use someone you personally know, I do ask that you change names if you're going to use them. Those are private individuals. Or it can be a celebrity. I don't particularly care. As long as what you're trying to do is put the image into my head that you have in your own, or that you've got up on a screen in front of you, like if you're using a picture of an individual. Importantly, I want you to do this in 2 specific parts. So first, I want you to actually do some kinds of pre-writing. Don't just sit down and start typing things randomly while looking at a picture on the internet or on your phone or something like that. Go through and actually decide what details you want to include, what details you're trying to leave out, or the kinds of things that you think you want to put in there that are going to put that image into the reader's head, to give me a clear picture of what this person, who I may never have seen before and may never see in my life, actually looks like. And so this is it's going to be a couple different things. So first, it's going to be, what are the kinds of things should I say about a person at all, generally? So go ahead and make a list of that kind of stuff. Whether or not you want to talk about like height, weight, skin color, gender, or like posture, body language, maybe personality traits. Like, you don't have to describe them as if it's just a still image. You could talk about the way that they, like, maybe their gait as they're walking, or the cadence of their speech, or, their personality traits as well. Like, whatever you feel like including is perfectly fine. But you just make a list of the kinds of things you might want to say about a person. And then next to that, you start putting in the specific details about the person you actually want to talk about. So this is a little, not just an opportunity to practice description, but also an opportunity to practice some pre-writing activities. And that way, you're more likely to make sure you include everything you want to talk about, rather than just sitting down, pulling up an image, and just typing away. Again, like I say for a lot of things in this class, it's probably the case that you could do the second part of this assignment just fine without needing the first part of this assignment. But this class is also about building good habits that will make us stronger writers when the assignments are far greater than the ones you see in these freshman level classes. So practice the pre-writing, figure out what works for you, figure out your own pre-writing system. There's no right answer to how to do the pre-writing. I suggest listing because that's just really me. But if you want to try something else, that's fine too. If you want to include your pre-writing in your response, you are more than welcome to. So for example, if you are making a couple lists of things, type them in the text box with everything else. And then just hit enter a bunch of times when you start your actual paragraph of the person that you are describing. And then that will, that habit of planning out your writing, then doing your writing, it's going to be a great habit to build. It's going to make you overall a stronger writer over time. I highly encourage you to actually engage with that part of the assignment. 5-10 minutes maybe. It doesn't take long to do this kind of thing. 5-10 minutes, make a list. What are the different kinds of things I might want to say about people or a person I was trying to describe? 5-10 minutes. Okay, let me go look at this specific person, like a picture of them, or just let me imagine them in my head. What are the details about this person that I'm specifically going to talk about? And then put it into sentences. However long that takes to type up whatever it is you came up with. And so that's basically all that we're going to do this week. The rest of this week's playlist will cover paragraphs. Specifically, we really need to know what paragraphs are and how they work, topic sentences, internal paragraph structure, that kind of thing. MLA format, your Unit 1 assignment has to be in MLA format. We're going to go over that, outlining and some basic essay structure stuff. These will all be pretty short. I think the paragraph video is probably going to be the longest. Actually, probably the discussions of 4 and 5 for 10 ways to think about writing. I don't know. I haven't quite recorded those yet. I just have a plan of what I want to do. But that's the stuff we're going to cover this week. And hopefully that should give you a good grounding in order to start actually putting a draft together. So we'll have discussed brainstorming. Hopefully you guys have topics that you want to write about. You've been coming up with ideas for that kind of thing. We're going to cover outlining so you can start making a plan. Planning out what your story is going to be. We're going to talk about narrative structure specifically. For this Unit 1 assignment, it's going to be really easy. Basically, chronological order. The different, start your story at the beginning, end it at the end, have the middle in the middle, all that stuff. But then, what kinds of things do I have in paragraphs? When do I switch paragraphs? We'll talk about that too. And then getting it in the right format. And so by the end of this week, you should have all the tools you need to produce a first draft. That doesn't mean it has to be good. That doesn't mean it has to be the thing you're going to turn in. I think next week we get into introductions and thesis statements. So I guess next Tuesday you'll have everything, all the tools you need, because you still have to have an introduction. You still have to have a thesis statement. Let me pull up the syllabus real quick, make sure that's right. Okay, so yeah, that's what we're looking at. So this week was going to be developing paragraphs, outlining basic essay structure, and then specifically thesis statements, introductions, and conclusions week 4, day 2, because we do not have a class on Monday. We should be back in class in person on this day. So at that point, I will have, I'll be well outside the 10-day isolation period. So I should be able to come back and actually teach in person. So plan to be in person week 4, day 2, September 6th. Not week 3. I'm still positive, still have some pretty hefty symptoms, but things should have subsided by now, by the September 6th. So we will plan for that. If something changes, obviously keep an eye on your email and the announcements on Blackboard. But hopefully we will be back in class that day, and I do not anticipate that will change unless something wild happens. I say that, but I said at the beginning of the semester, I'll just keep an eye in case of announcements, in case something wild happens, but it probably won't. And then immediately it did. So September 6th, back in class. This week, not so much. But this should give you, don't worry about the what is an essay OER link. we're just doing the best we can. We'll move that, what is an essay, down to here. I'll put all these things up on Blackboard for you at some point this week, but they're not the focus of this week, so I'm less concerned about that. So 5 and 6 will become 4 and 5. What is an essay moves down to September 6th, and then we'll have peer review, and then it'll be basically due. So we're coming up to the end of Unit 1. I know we haven't been in class a lot, which is awful because I really like covering a lot of this stuff in class, but hopefully these videos will help you get the concepts you need in order to successfully complete this Unit 1 assignment. So again, there's your to-do list. You have 2 things of actual work to do. You have 2 things to read, and you've got some you've got some videos to watch. And that's it. If you have any questions, email me. If not, I'll see you back in class on September 6th in person, bright and early for some of you, and in the afternoon for some of the rest of you. Other than that, have a good night, and I will see you in the next video.